front and rear windscreens on. Let's get some temp into this car. Hi everyone. It's obviously been snowing. We've got a little bit of ice on the show. Yeah, we have. I've cleared the car and I'm going to go out in it today. We've got to go out, if I was honest, because I've got a student who's got a test. Unfortunately, the test is all the way up in Southport. I don't go to Southport very often, but we've got a test in Southport at 10:51. It's now 8:44 in the morning. I'm picking Josh up at 9 o'clock. He doesn't live in the area. He's an old student of mine who actually got he collected points and got banned, so he's had to go through the whole process again, but he's got a test up in Southport. So we've rang the test centre and they've said the first few tests are cancelled, but as normal with the DVSA, they're not going to make any decision until a little bit later, which I understand. So we've got to get ourselves up there. So we're going to have a little look at how I teach in snowy conditions. We'll go and pick Josh up and then get going. Say hello to Chris, one of my neighbours. Right, let's have a little look first of all. This is what I would always do. Have a look at grip levels. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of acceleration. Instantly loses grip, so we know obviously it's slippy. And I do exactly the same with the braking to just get an idea of what it's like before I go anywhere near things. Now, just look at the pedestrians walking, and that's what I always try and get people to think. You've got to drive as if you were walking.
The expected delay due to traffic is 10 minutes.
Be quiet, silly car. You've got to drive in the same sort of way as though you were walking. You imagine if you're walking on ice or snow, you couldn't sprint off really quick, so you can't accelerate really quick. You couldn't stop really quick, so again in the car you couldn't stop really quick. If you were going around a corner, you'd take smaller steps and take extra care. Exactly the same in the car. All your inputs need to be super smooth. Still got this cold from Christmas. So we've got a little section here that is downhill, and this always catches people out in who live in my estate. So I've purposefully left it in first gear all the way throughout, although a higher gear can reduce the chance of wheel spin. I've used first gear knowing this section was potentially going to be like this, so I've got some more engine braking. I'm going to talk about it in a second, but I've got super slow and I've kept moving, and that's the idea of what we're trying to do in these situations. You've got to go slow enough to be able to keep moving. I am going to go for second gear. So yeah, if you're in a higher gear and you just gear down in slippy situations, it can actually lock the wheels. It can cause a skid. So people just often say to me in videos, oh, gear down, gear down. No, not on its own. So here, gently braking and gearing down. That's the key. It's using both. And again, I'm doing my utmost to try and keep things moving slowly. Okay. This is obviously pretty slushy as well. This is usually gritted, so I'm suspecting this is going to be what the roads are going to be like. They're actually not too bad here, but looking at my sat-nav screen, it's chaos everywhere. Absolutely chaos everywhere. So this is going to be a fun one this morning. Okay, I'll go and pick Josh up, and then we'll get going and see how Josh copes with these conditions. First impressions are the roads are obviously a little bit slippy. There's still the remnants of the snow that we've had on the roads, but they're not too bad. The first thing that always goes on when it's not just when there's snow, but it's whenever there's any poor weather, even if it rains, the level of traffic increases massively. So what does that do for people's journey? Puts pressure on it. People are often late, they're impatient, and as we see with most of the drive and fail clips that I put out week after week and month after month, it's impatience that causes a majority of the problems. So make sure you're just aware of impatience. Make sure I'm making sure that I can clear here. You can see the one behind edging and edging and edging, but I'm not going to block the junction. No, I think we're good now. So yeah, instant wheel spin, and that's even using it the lightest little bit. We've got a front wheel drive car, so people say they're a little bit easier to drive in these conditions. They are, but even there, tiniest little bit, it was sliding, so we've got to be super careful today. Every input has got to be super light and super gentle, and to do that you've got to get forward planning. You've got to look super far, and you've got to see things really early. So as I always say to all my instructors, you've got to get at least 6 or 8 seconds ahead, and that gives the instructors enough time to then have their inputs to the pupils when I'm teaching the instructors. But I've just put a message out to our work group today: take care everyone, if you're deciding to go out, it's up to yourself whether you go out and teach. I would try and teach as many of my students as I possibly can in these conditions, but it does depend on experience. It does depend on your confidence in what you're doing yourself in these conditions, but you can't just be 6 or 8 seconds ahead in these conditions. You've got to be even further, to then see things that early, to then allow your student to react in the way that they need to react.
Josh's test was unfortunately cancelled, so I head home.
Pretty awkward because you've got to be ready for people coming out and sliding, but you've got to keep momentum. It's fine. What's this one doing? Trying to wheel spin everywhere. So unfortunately Josh's test has been cancelled. It's not surprising, to be honest. There is a higher degree of risk, especially when you've got students who might not necessarily be capable in these conditions. I'd be comfortable if I was taking Josh for his test today. I'd be comfortable that Josh would have been fine, but I understand it from the DVSA's perspective and the examiner's perspective. So I didn't even do any work with Josh. He phoned up while he was on the way to meet me, and he'd said to me that the tests have been cancelled. So what we're going to do, I'm going to use this time that I've got to go and have a little look about how I drive in the snow. There's going to be only stuff really in the side streets, I would say. I don't think there's going to be an absolute load on the main road. But what we are going to do, we're going to have a little look at it. So just following on to what I said earlier from here, it's like walking. You've got to think of how you would walk, and you drive the car in the same manner. A point that I just want to go a little bit further on to is regarding gearing down. I'm going to try and demonstrate this a little bit further up, that if you are in a higher gear and you just gear down it can actually lock your wheels. So let's have a little look here. It is slippy. So gear down, clutch back up, and it slides. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. So you've got to be super careful gearing down, and just gearing down of its own accord. People think that, yeah, gearing down, use the engine to help you slow. Yes, to a certain extent, but no, not solely on its own. So I'm using the engine here to make sure I'm going to be okay, but I've done it early. I'm already in the gear and I've already reduced, and it is pretty slippy at the bottom. Now, this here, what I said before, coming back into the estate, you've got to be careful of cars coming out this way if you're coming in, but I've now got to be careful of cars coming in. So I'm going to tuck it over here as much as I can. Extra slow early, then do what I can to keep it rolling. Just keep it tickling. Just keep it moving. No heavy acceleration. All I'm after is just maintaining momentum. That's all. I'm not after any rate of acceleration, and I'll feel for the acceleration and what I can do. We can get to second. Okay. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and try and find some slushy areas. So I'm going to head here. I'm slowing before the bridge to be gearing down on top, and then using the engine to hold back as I come over the other side. Yes, the higher gears are less powerful, and it might be an idea to sometimes use second gear to start off. Totally fine. You can feather the clutch and you can change what you're doing to really modulate how much of that power is coming through. But honestly, if you use first in the correct manner, a lot of the time you can deal with it like that also. So I'm doing my utmost to keep things moving. I've done a lot on the channel recently about not arriving at the same point at the same time. And there's shareable room here with the Black Ford. You're all right, buddy? We've got to think of the more vulnerable people in these conditions as well. Walkers, pedestrians, absolutely. We've got to be really careful turning into roads. Don't forget they've got priority. So again, they're the type of situations that you've got to try and deal with and see nice and early. But cyclists as well. Not sure whether I'd fancy cycling too much in these conditions. So I'm not being pressured by anyone like normal. I'm just making sure I could stop in the distance I see is clear. You can feel it under, not underfoot, but under tyre, just how sort of like it's a funny feeling with the tyres, and that's often what I tend to find in the snow, that you're feeling for what the car's like all the time. It's quite difficult to explain. Quite often as well, the deeper snow parts can be a little bit better if it's a little icy. This section of the road where people have driven on isn't going to be brilliant. Sometimes you're better off going on the deeper parts, the less frozen stuff. You'll actually give yourself a little bit more grip. So as I come up to do any junction, I'm going to tell and show people early, and I'm going to slow super gentle, super early, gearing down really early, and everything's just as smooth as we possibly can. Do it need to stop? No. So any little bit of momentum that you can keep is crucial, because then the car doesn't have to work as much to get itself moving, and therefore you're lessening the chance of wheel spin, slip, slide, danger. Okay, these roads, they're not too bad. What's the temperature? It's still 0 degrees, so it's still going to be slippy. So I'm still going to be adjusting and modulating my acceleration to suit. What I am going to do, I'm just going to dive in and out of side streets and side entrances, I think, just to have a look at different scenarios and different situations. Okay, it's not a problem. You can slow easily for that. Well, I've got my heated steering wheel on and a heated seat. A little bit of temperature, only 20.5 degrees I've got the temperature set to. Eco-wise, you're better off having a heated seat on and a heated steering wheel as opposed to having the temperature going. But honestly, be comfortable. Now, I am going to turn left here. So, assessing what the corner's like, I'm going to drop it into second before I do any steering. And again, I'm just doing my utmost just to keep things smooth and just flowing. This is just wet here. Got a little bit on the peripheries of the road, the sides of the road, but it's not too bad at all. So it's situations like this that honestly make me think about Josh's test and think, well, probably could have gone ahead. I know it was in Southport. Southport, we're what, probably maybe 20 miles away. So we don't know the conditions there, but as you've seen, apart from coming in and out of my estate, the roads actually aren't too bad. They're just effectively wet. But we're still ready to deal with things in a smooth manner. If I have to go offline here, I've got extra problems. So I'm just reducing for this taxi. Got to go slightly offline, so we don't want any harsh movements. That red one shouldn't have pulled out there, but I'm still able to deal with it smoothly. We've got the van, it's a little close behind, and you can see there's still a little bit of snow on the road here. So higher gear as possible, keeps the revs low, keeps the power low. I've got a problem with this particular car though, because it's so torquey and so powerful. It will want to light up its front tyres as soon as I look at it, so you've got to be super gentle. I'll tell you what I will do as well. I've not had a go at this. There's another mode on this car, and it's slippery mode. So I can instantly feel everything dull down. No problems. When I've had a little go at this, just being careful of this little part, again, reduced before I got there because we were going over a little area where there was still a little bit of snow on the surface I was going to be using, and it's the same again on this corner. So I'm just reducing slightly, and I'm making sure I'm trying to keep my car super balanced as I go around the corner, just maintaining momentum. I'm not trying to go super fast or super slow. I'm just trying to manage it. The grip's fine. The steering's still positive. You can be doing that as well to try and gauge what the surface is like. A little bit earlier, I think you probably would have saw when I started off, I instantly have a little look at acceleration and braking in a little quiet area to make sure I'm okay with the grip that we've got. I am going to turn left at these lights, and I just want to go down through a few gears. And this is what this slippery mode allows me to do. It rev matches, which then takes away the potential for locking wheels, because there's not a big difference between, well, there would be if it didn't rev match. There would be a difference between the speed of the engine and the wheel speed, and that's where the little lock comes from. So because it rev matches, that isn't going to be an issue. So I can continue as I'm coming up towards things, be gently braking, and the car rev matches for me, and it's totally fine. It's a nice little part to this car. Now, would you be skilled enough to be able to do that? I'm not sure whether even I would, to be that gentle and that subtle with what I'm doing with the brake pedal,
to be rev matching myself, and rev matching just requires a little blip on the down change. So honestly, this is a nice little way of doing things, all down to the car. I'm going to keep it in this slippery mode. It does dull the power a little bit, which is, I was just thinking of the silver one up ahead. I was going to again do my utmost to not arrive at the same point as the same time as people in a smaller space. We're trying to do whatever we can, or we should be trying to do whatever we can to maintain flow for everyone. It's the stopping and the starting off which is going to cause the issues. So looking for any problems either side. No problems there, we're all good. So I'm not going to down change into first. I'm going to get it down to first gear speed, declutch, then into first. In fact, we'll have a little go at moving off in second on this particular corner. If it's just moving, just find just enough bite just to maintain that movement. We don't want it to go faster. We're just after it to maintain as it comes out of the junction, providing it's obviously clear. If you have, I'm just going to slow early. I'm going to do my utmost to keep things moving, but I don't honestly think I'm going to be able to here. So I'm going to go for a stop. That's fine. I think I'm going to go for second gear again. And I'm going to start early and go slowly. We do need power if we're starting off in second gear, but it's really important to modulate it to just have enough so the engine's not going to stall. You need to give it enough power, but not too much. If you give it too much, especially in something like this sort of power and torque, it's just going to again be losing grip. The tyres on this car aren't brilliant. They're summer tyres. They're sports tyres as well, so they're actually probably as bad as you could get. I'm going to just try this one in second gear, uphill as well, but again I'm going to try and do my utmost to keep moving, and that was really important for me on that slight uphill little section. Okay, so is it worth getting winter tyres or cross climate tyres? Yes, it is. It is something that I did toy with as soon as I got this car, but that's normal. Things get in the way and I never got around to it. But as you can see, a majority of the stuff you can cope with. I'm again going to do my utmost to keep things moving. I'm just going to put my wheels the other side of those two bigger parts that we just went over. And again, I'm able just to tickle things out and keep rolling. Okay, no issues. So yeah, these tyres that I've got, they're not brilliant for these conditions. However, I still think a majority of the time in the UK, in conditions like this, not if it got a lot heavier, but in conditions like this, you can still cope. You can still deal with things. But a lot of people aren't trained in this. Conversation with my instructors before about if you're heading out, just be careful. But there's a skill set from the instructors, and there's also a skill set from the pupils that you've got to be careful of. Only certain pupils might be at a level where they're able to deal with this. Just moving again, super slow, taking a lot of care with my observations. No bothers. So, did your instructor, when you were learning to drive, if it snowed, did they take you out in these conditions? I would do my utmost to try and get people out. But I think I just have had a little message, even whilst I've been driving, from a lesson observation that I'm meant to be doing this afternoon with one of my instructors, and I'm suspecting that that's been cancelled as well. So, yeah, is what it is. Okay, let's have a little think about grip here. What's the acceleration like? Instant, brakes traction, braking, instant brakes traction. So as you can see, the moment that you get away from this smoothness, you're in trouble. And that's what people don't do enough of. They don't do enough to, like I said, just trundle everywhere and just keep things super smooth and super balanced and super early with stuff. So same thing here. I am going to go first because we've got some better weather. Crossing traffic, you've got to be super careful. Talking about better weather on this road that I'm going on, I've already assessed that little space in the middle, making sure I'm not going to be going across any icy or slushy stuff, and that then determines how much acceleration that I can use. Okay, no problems. Easy enough. Back to just wet stuff, so instantly the traction's changed. But don't forget, I was saying before, it doesn't take much for there to be a little section where you've got to put your wheels on some icy stuff. It could be a problem here with people coming out of this downhill junction. Always think again. Now, we've said it just before as well, try not to arrive at the same point at the same time as people. And that thought process is really important in these conditions also, as it is with all of it. Now, a couple of little things here. I can go round the markings, so I'm going to do that. But if it's snowy and there's been a track that's taken across some markings, I think sometimes I would choose to stay in the clearer part and maybe go across some markings as opposed to just going in the snowy bit. Hope you understand what I'm talking about. It might be the same here on this roundabout. I am going to go left of the roundabout. It's nice to have the Rev Matching and the gearing down ability. It then allows me to be super smooth with the brake, and the gears just take care of themselves. If not, if you haven't got that on your car, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily advise doing it of your own accord, unless you are super skilled. I don't think I'm skilled enough to be absolutely super smooth and to be blipping that gas under gear changing. I'm going to slow here because I'm okay, but it's not I'm okay, Jack. I'm thinking of the danger that they've got because their wheels are still on that slippy stuff, even though they've got an off-road vehicle, which is probably not even four-wheel drive. Anyway, so think of others. Again, do your utmost for flow. This looks a little slippier here. Now I'm going to take the next right. This does look slippy on the corner, so I'm going to gear down on the better weather. And then I'm making sure I'm balanced and smooth with all my input. Slightly cut the corner. That goes back to what I was saying before about the markings. I may choose to do that sometimes, providing it's absolutely safe, as opposed to taking a wider, sharper course, which puts more onus and more pressure on the steering and increases chance of skid. So we're trying to take smooth lines through things if at all possible. But try and go round markings. It's not too much different sometimes, but occasionally you might decide to go on a slightly different course just to make sure you're safe. I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra room. I think first gear is fine, especially with this slippery mode that I've got, and it was. I am just going to hold back and let the bus flow through. You had a little bit of softer stuff there that it seemed a bit silly for me to make him brake on that area when I had a nice bit that I could do my slow. And I'm just going to go ahead. Like I said, I'm not sticking to the main roads. We're going to go and have a little look at some slushy stuff. Don't think there's any reason for me to test the grip here. It doesn't look any different than the areas round by me. It's quite an easy little section of road because we've got no one coming. Is there anything that's going to come out of any side entrance? Same things. Just keep mindful of it. okay, actually not too bad in this section. We're trying to keep an average higher speed, not high speed, but higher speed. That's exactly the same as if conditions were good. By slow and early, you'll actually keep more or better momentum through. Here, I've got to be super careful. I am going to keep it in second and just tickle it. And I'm looking as early as I can across the window. There is a car there. They were a little fast. You could see the ABS starting to take a hold with their car. They weren't showing probably enough caution, but they were able to slow it down. There was no ABS or no wheel spin from my vehicle. And if you do get into that situation of ABS kicking in or wheel spin, you know you're doing things too harshly. Calm it down, smooth it down. Really important. And just have a little talk about ABS as well. I'm just idling here. I'm letting the car just take itself. Idle speed's brilliant for driving in snowy conditions as well. It's really good. Yeah, I just want to have a little talk about ABS in these snowy conditions. It's these conditions where ABS just doesn't work. Should I have a go at a quick stop with ABS? Yeah, we'll do. No one's around. And it just carries on. I did ease out a bit in the end. But as you can see, you cannot rely on ABS to be bringing you to a stop quickly and sorting itself out. All that happens effectively with it, it realises the car's skidding, releases the brake, tries again, realises it's skidding, release the brakes, and you actually don't do loads of slowing. That was slowing down reasonably for these conditions though. But do not think ABS is a get out of jail card. This road though is not so bad, although we are driving through some slushy stuff, so I've still got to be super careful. Not a problem. Liverpool's geographically not brilliant for snow. It's usually wet in Liverpool. We get a lot of rain and weather conditions coming in off the North Sea. Sorry, not North Sea, the Irish Sea. Get my geography right. So it's rare that we get any snow in Liverpool, and I've been trying to do one of these videos about how I drive in snow for a number of years, and as you can see, it's not even that snowy. But that brings me nicely onto another little part, is if you don't have to go out in snowy conditions, don't. Mentioned a little bit earlier on about the amount of traffic levels that go on when you get not just snowy weather as well, but rain. Everyone always jumps in the car, don't they? So traffic levels are always higher. And I mentioned before about impatience, because there's that much more traffic. People are late, maybe getting the kids to school or maybe getting to work. Impatience starts to get the better of people, and that's when people start taking risks. I'm just accommodating a DPD van. Just a slight little reduce for me allowed them to get out comfortably. Did I have priority? Yes. Did they make me slow down? Yes. But for me, that's how the roads work. I know it's not specifically to the rules, but there are certain areas. We're arriving at the same point as this one? No. I know there's certain areas and cities where what's going to go on is someone may very well force the issue from side road because the traffic's so heavy here that they might cause a little bit of inconvenience. But for best traffic flow for everyone, that's for me okay. It's not an issue, but people make a massive deal about it just because of that word priority. It's one of my most disliked words, priority. I hate that blasted word. Work together. I'm going to change it for 2 words. Right, what we're going to do, we're going to have a little go at a right turn here. oncoming traffic, I know there won't be any because this is a set of traffic lights where I just get to go on my own. I am gearing down. Again, notice the part that I geared down was on the good part, as good as it could be, before we did any steering input. If you think of the balance of the car, if you brake, the weight goes forward, and then if you turn, the weight goes to the outside of the corner. So really it's the same sort of thing as doing any. I am going to turn where this car's just poking its nose up outside of the tree. I'm going to turn in here, but it's sort of like even when you're driving faster, if you do any track stuff, you try and do all your braking in a straight line, you settle the car, and then you actually drive around. That's exactly what you try and do in situations like this, but it's obviously a lot slower. We're not aiming for that ultimate pace. Now, can't see any markings, can't tell whether I've got priority, so I'm not going to take it. It's effectively an unmarked crossroads. Make sure I'm not going to arrive at the same point as anyone. Would that have crossed your mind? Same thing here. I do know that there are markings on this junction. I had a little slide off the speed bump there, so this is quite slippy down this road. Again, I'm going to slow it below idle, but I'm going to keep it in second and do my best just to keep it just trickling. We can see the markings there, but again, not going to assume priority. So, people clearing the path, fair play. Someone out in it, having a snowball fight. Go on, chuck it at her, mate. I like cruel. So, people could be turning in, cutting corners, remember. Think about what I said. You can even see all of that as we arrive at the front of the junction. Fella in a four-wheel drive, he's fine. He's got a four-wheel drive. That's why he was on his phone. I'm going to tell the police. What I say, if you catch up to the fella in the Discovery just in front of you, four-wheel drive, but he's on his phone. If you catch up...
People just do not learn, do they?
I know. Keep safe.
Sorry.
Cheers, buddy. Okay. So, unbelievable. That just sums it up, to be honest, but looks as though the police are going in a different way. Thing is, though, I don't blame the police for that, because what that fella's going to do is see the police and then instantly put his phone down. But the police officer was exactly right. People just do not learn. Unbelievable. These conditions and your attention's away. You think on the kind of things that I've verbalised, unbelievable. I'm going to go left because the police are obviously dealing with something there. This does look pretty bad, slightly uphill. Just going to keep it in first, I think, and just keep that momentum just moving, super slow as I can. And we're okay. What am I going to do here? Red car is the one that I'm dealing with. The Mercedes I've already dealt with. Is there enough room? Am I then going to be pushing on to some deeper stuff if I go and share that space? Yes. So that's my reasoning behind just sitting and just waiting. You're all right, mate. Okay. So we've got this same, what I think, police officer on this side. I'm going to do a right turn. Oncoming traffic, got to make sure I'm crossing traffic safely. That one looks as though it's turning already. So I am going to gear down. Although second gear would work, it was just a little bit, for me, fast of the steering input that I had to, and I can feel it in my steering wheel there. I can feel it having little grumbles and little slides, if you like, as I go around that corner. So go back to what I said about walking in these conditions. How would you walk? And believe it or not, would this be a definite? I feel as though, this is my opinion, I feel as though you do have more grip in a car when you're driving in these conditions than you would do walking, but only a little bit. So you can't go loads faster than walking pace in certain scenarios. So same thing again. I do know that this is an unmarked crossroads, so I'm making sure that, again, no one's going to be joining at the same point. All right, we haven't dealt with many slopes. Have a quick talk about that here. Is what you should be trying to do is keep and build your momentum and not speed, but you might build a little bit to then get you up the rest of the slope. And that's quite important. I don't really want loads of acceleration to get me going. I want to keep it and maintain it. And that's exactly what we're doing here as well, is I'm going to maintain a little bit of momentum, can't go. So I'm slowing early on some better conditions. I'm going to go second. I'm going to try second. And then I'm just going to edge it away. Super slow, no wheel spin, nothing. Only a little bit of a grumble as I came across the bits that have been used by other people going right and left. So notice that little point. That's an important bit as well. Sometimes, rather than arriving in the mushed up bit and the bad bit, stay clear of it, and it allows you a little run to it. Quite important. Okay, so I am going to take the next road on the left. Is idle speed too fast? A little. So again, I'm going to go in second this time rather than putting into first. You can use either. You can, by all means, use second and then use a little bit of gas and bite just to make it go a little bit slower than that idle speed. Idle speed's there. Is that, again, I still think it's a little much for just in case someone came. So I slowed it down again. Again, I'm just dipping the clutch just below the bite, slowing it down a little further, and then using a little bit of gas and bite to go round. I'm going to do exactly the same here. And that's because of the sort of like the mushy part, and that's the slippy bit. So building momentum uphill we said about, and we've also really talked a little bit about downhill. I'm going to slow early, just going to let this Volvo clear. And then this slower speed allows me to take my observations and actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, I'm going to go left. It allows me to take my observations and keep things moving. Okay, so we're good. So, off out. Give a little chance for your wheels to clear. There might be some compacted snow on them. So, don't go straight on the better part and then straight into normal acceleration. Okay, so I've got another couple of little bits that I'm going to do. I am going to shortly turn right, not here, but it's the next one just before the two roundabouts up ahead. I'm going to stay off into the side roads. Now here, I'm going to hold back and again allow that one to clear because they've got the slushy part. Remember what I did with the bus before. I am going to gear down into one and just creep it in because I can't go. I'm going to try and take my time and then go after the blue one. I can't because that one's coming in a little bit quick. Appreciate the amount of acceleration you need for your gaps. So again, you've got to start early. I'm not going to go before the Audi. Normally, I would have gone there, but because of where I'm sat, you need to appreciate that. Yeah, there was a little grumble there as I moved away. All right, so think about the rate of acceleration you need And don't forget, the icy conditions are probably going to curtail your ability to move away as quickly as you want to sometimes. So you've got to change how you think about the gaps that you take also. Okay, how slowly people are walking. What should we do with this black one? Now, I'm going to hold back here because we're trying to use the same space, but again, I'm going to do my utmost to keep things moving. Super slow, second gear's fine. And again, I'm just starting to tickle my feet now to, again, small steering inputs, smooth steering inputs, and be able to keep it moving. And there's been very little wheel spin or ABS throughout this drive that I've done. And that's all because of the smoothness that I've put in place. That's what it's all about. It's actually not too difficult, to be honest. People just get a little bit of impatience, I think. Are you one of those people who think, oh, I need to go, I'm going to really boot it and get my wheels spinning? If you do, all that generally does is just polishes the snow and ice underneath your wheels and makes less grip and makes it more difficult for you to move away. So try and use the momentum and keep momentum as opposed to gaining or losing momentum quickly. I think I've already covered that in what I've already said. Okay, I am going to turn left here. Tell people nice and early so the guy and the dog knows that he doesn't have to rush. Important for the signal in that situation. I'm again, second gear, just slow it before the point of corner. So my slowest speed is going to be before steering input. Because if you do braking and steering, that's when you have problems. So we're okay underneath the loop line. That's a cycle area that I use quite a lot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a right turn up at the end. Again, looking for people coming out of side entrances and just making sure I'm not going to be arriving at this area at exactly the same time. Anyone cutting in and using this junction? No, I'm assessing that as I'm coming up to it, yes. So notice where I've waited. He's let me go through. You're a good one. Cheers, buddy. Thank you. So now don't rush for people. People will often do that. Again, no wheel spin there. Just want to say a big well done to that guy. He had exactly the same thought as myself. We were both sort of arriving at the same point at the same time, and he understood the dangers of the steering and going around the corner. It was slightly downhill as well, and he just decided to back off on a better part of road surface to allow me to come out and finish. Perfect. Spot on driving. Very well done to you, sir. So, I'm going to head back, I think. I think mainly it's on the main roads, so there's not really that much to add. Hopefully there's a few little bits there that you might be able to implement. Like I said, I've been waiting to do a video like this for a few years. It's still not particularly deep in Liverpool. We don't get it deep in Liverpool, but it is something that I think is really important, these skills, because the whole country effectively shuts down when we get snow. People are terrible at it. If you've got any questions about anything, please ask them. But thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for watching. What about this guy to the left? How's your planning? It shows you what people are like, that impatience. Unbelievable. But anyway, thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks a lot for watching. And I will hopefully see you next time. Keep safe.